exotic technologies? Well, this includes such areas as free energy, gravity, anti-gravity control, the study of nature of time and time travel. We'll explore not only the technology, but also the how-to part of the technology. So let's have some fun today and explore the world of exotic technologies. Folks, my special guest today is founder of the Noah's Ark Research Foundation, James Schwartz. Ben's organization was formed September 27, 1976 in the Philippines for the sole purpose of doing research in alternative energy, new battery technology, water purification, electric vehicles. The organization also is to provide equipment, work area, and funding for scientists and researchers that need a safe haven from mainstream research organizations. Ben, welcome to the show.
Well, it's nice to be on the show, Bill.
Ben, tell the listening audience about Noah's Ark Research Foundation.
Well, originally Noah's Ark was a medical research organization. We had a few doctors on the show, and we were doing rife research in cancer and arthritis, things like that. But very difficult to get funding and stuff. And eventually we got off into alternative energy and new batteries, electric cars, things like this. And we got quite a response from our research team in Japan and India. So it was born. And since then we have been concentrating on new energy technology, new lighting, things on this order, and a few exotic things, of course, that we don't usually talk about, like our electromagnetic flux energy research program. We also do some research in Tesla research. We're got a group that's helping us right now. We're hoping to set up a small Tesla museum, duplicate some of Tesla's work. We have done a ground radar scan at Tesla's tower and found out some interesting information, which we have posted on our group.
Okay. Now, what sort of work have you done with Tesla's technology? You know, this is an area that I'm fascinated with.
Well, me too, Bill. Well, we were always curious about why Tesla had his tower set up the way he did. The depth approximately 122 feet, somewhere in there. But over the years, because it was owned by a photographic organization, they've been dumping chemicals and everything in there, which makes it kind of impossible to go down and inspect anything. So we decided to do a ground radar scan. And when we did, we came up with some very unusual findings. In fact, I don't know whether you've seen it. I posted it in our file section at the Noah's Ark group, Noah's Ark Research Group. There was a lot of concrete debris at the bottom, which we assumed probably broke off from the top of the concrete structure. But we also found 4 interesting distinct objects at the bottom, which we think is softer type material that was put in there, and it looks like there was some sort of like a copper ring or something, a tube, connecting them together. And we think it might have been some kind of a ground plane or something. And there's also evidence of tunnels leading out in 4 different directions. So that's about as far as we've gotten so far. We're still doing research on it.
Now, let me stop you right there. And, you're saying that they buried something there, or they dug into the ground, or what's going on there?
Well, yeah, from the surface, Tesla dug a hole down about 120-something feet, and at the bottom of that hole, he had, looks like he was building some sort of a ground plane or something to connect into the earth, and at the same time, just a little bit below that, there's signs of 4 tunnels down there leading off in different directions. Now, what these were, we have no idea whatsoever. They're filled with sediment and chemicals and all from the company that owned the property.
Huh, that's very interesting. Now, I also heard that the kind of the geology out there, the type of rock that Tesla built this structure on is somewhat unique. Did you run across anything like that at all?
Well, we did find the substructure of the rock there kind of unique. On the radar scan, it showed 3 distinct layers of rock formation as you go down, which in itself is not unusual, but each layer of those rocks, there's some sort of metallic reading that goes in, like if you were digging a tunnel down and you went through a rock layer and you took a piece of iron rod or something and a hammer and you drove it into that rock formation on the sides. This is what we found. But because it was made of iron, of course, it was quite rusty, and it was very difficult to see on the scanner screen. But we're pretty sure that he was also connecting into these 3 rock layers as you go down.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've been doing a little bit of research into Tesla's work, and I have a web page dedicated to Tesla's wireless power transmission system. And I was just wondering if you looked into Tesla's flat coils, his flat coil design and all.
Well, actually, I have. We were interested in his coil design because we believe that this was a very important bit of information in the construction of his tower. As you know, the tower had been disassembled by the government. They went in there and they took it all apart. So we have no way of knowing what Tesla was planning in the top of the tower, but we do know he had coils up there, a lot of copper coils. We have gone a little kind of off the beaten path where most researchers try to get information about Tesla's coils and things like this. What we have done is research the various companies and stuff that Tesla ordered supplies from. And we were able to locate a company that, of course, long since out of business, but one of the younger gentlemen there said his father worked in the company, and he remembers his father talking about 6 huge rolls of copper wire that was shipped to Tesla. So we've been kind of putting this little bit of information together, and we know that Tesla had an immense coil in the top of that tower.
Mm-hmm. And, I had a researcher, actually a professor, over there in Germany by the name of Konstantin Miles, and he gave a demonstration last year at the Tesla Tech conference that was held in Salt Lake City. And he demonstrated some of Tesla's power transmission system, and he was running this little boat in a pool of water, and this boat was powered directly from this transmitter. It was like a little model that Miles built. And, what I thought was interesting is that Miles mentioned on the air that he was able to measure the speed of the wave, of this Tesla wave. And again, he was using Tesla's flat coil that was imprinted on a circuit board. And he mentioned to me that the speed of this wave was 1.5 times the speed of light. And he knew that speed because he just calculated the wavelength times the frequency equals the speed of light, and he determined that the speed was 1.5 times the speed of light, which I thought was rather interesting. So he's working with a different type of electromagnetic energy, and he referred to it as a scalar wave. And I generally think of them as longitudinal waves, something that's beyond what is known in current EM theory that's taught in many colleges and universities today. So have you looked into any of this sort of technology?
Well, a little bit there. I agree with you on the waveform there. As far as the speed and all, I can't say that I would agree with that as of now, because, like I say, we still got some work we're doing on it, our research. But I'm familiar with the gentleman you spoke of, and I was quite fascinated with his research. I think he's gone a long ways into researching into Tesla's wireless transmission, which is what I think the Wardenclyffe Tower was being built for, to transmit wireless power all over the world. Of course, I almost hate to say that, because you're going to have a bunch of people contradict that. They think that he was going to use it for communication. So there's a lot of different theories. But and without actually knowing or seeing his coil or having any more information, I would have to agree with you as far as the wave. I don't think a scalar wave would be the correct thing to use, because of the way the ground plane was built at the bottom of that shaft. So I'm afraid to speculate too much right now. You might want to study that the drawing that we have in the group there in the file, and you'll see what I mean. We suspect that some special material was put down there, and he was planning on using the Earth as a ground plane and the ionosphere to bounce the power and actually transmit power all the way around the world.
Okay. Well, let's go back to this to the main subject of our show today. And this is building sustainable communities. And of course, I think Tesla technology will play a vital role in regards to these sustainable communities. And this is something that we're very interested in with the Progressive Tech Center. And the idea here is that we want to break away from centralized authority, and that is from the power companies, the power grid. We think will become increasingly unreliable in the future here. We're seeing a breakdown of the world economic system. And And what we're seeing here is a consolidation occurring in the financial world towards a central government, a central financial system. And we feel that the rest of us it's going to be left out of the of this centralization that's occurring here. And perhaps much of the world's population will be perhaps cut off from this. So that's leading us towards something that is self-sustaining, a self-sustaining community here. And I was just wondering, what are your thoughts on this, Ben, of a sustainable community?
Well, this is a very important part of our research. This, like the new battery system we're working on, is going to be a simplified battery system that the average person with a little bit of knowledge can actually build themselves. We believe that the same as you do, that the time is going to come when power is going to be less frequent. We'll have more brownouts. There'll be more problems. So we're trying to put together a short booklet to teach people how to produce their own power at home with economical means, like how to build their own wind generators, even how to construct their own solar panels, how to save on their hot water, instead of spending so much for gas or electricity for their hot water, preheat the water before it goes to the tank, change the lighting system in their homes to LED lighting system that uses very little current. And we're putting together a program where the average person, if they really want to put just a little bit of effort into it and a little money, they can can their own fruits and vegetables. They can store water. We have a system where we're going to teach them how to put a basement in their home if they don't have one. The time is going to be coming when the person that has their own life support system at home is going to be much better off. I kind of feel sorry for the people living in the city and, the big buildings and stuff, especially if we're without power for, say, a week at a time or whatever. What's going to happen with all their food as it defrosts or whatever? So people have got to learn how to store dried food, store water, some canned goods, how to kind of get back to nature in a way.
Mm-hmm. And you've been exploring all these areas, and we've been looking at it too. My fiancée, Aurora here, is very much into the organic foods and food preparation. And if you were to look at our refrigerator here, it looks like it's a farmer's market of fresh vegetables. And Aurora's attitude is that we find at a local market here that sells organic foods, and like a lot of our eggs, and we don't really drink any kind of dairy product. We stay away from the dairy products, and the fresh vegetables, organically grown. That's the direction that we're moving in. And one of the areas that we want to pursue at this tech center is growing our own vegetables, setting up hydroponic farms and growing our own vegetables. And another thing too is that we hear on the news that a lot of these seeds GMO type seeds. They're genetically modified. And I was wondering if you were looking into that, Ben. Some of these foods are genetically modified.
Yes, that's a very scary subject, Bill, because there's two, especially here in the Philippines. I've noticed that it's getting more difficult to get the organics, grown vegetables and stuff. So what we're trying to do is to contact the various people, like in Baguio and other parts of the province and in Mindanao, to start collecting these seeds to get away from these genetically and seeds that have been changed to the point where, like the rice here, I can tell a difference in the taste myself. A lot of people say they can't, but I can. I really prefer organic grown, so I agree with you and Aurora there. In fact, that's going to be another part of our little booklet, is to teach people how to grow their own organic vegetable and fruit. If they have a place. If not, if they live in a building where they have less space, how to actually grow in window pots and things like that. I think mankind is making too many drastic changes in seeds now. I don't know have you heard about this seed bank that's planning on storing seeds in a frozen underground cavern?
Yes, I did hear about that.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. I sent an email to one of the people there. I haven't got any feedback on it yet, but I was wondering where they're getting these seeds. Because there's another place. I'll try and find out and get you the address, but it's over in Europe. There's a group that collects seeds that go all the way back to the 15th century. Where individual families and stuff have been growing the same crops over and over, and they collect and store their own seeds. And I'm trying to set up a chain where we have a way of getting these seeds. But then you got to remember, when you're shipping in from one country to another, you got to go through the local organizations at like the airport and places like that, and sometimes they don't allow that to come in. So we're going to have to figure out how to get around that. Yes.
Have you seen the Biosphere 2 out there near Tucson, Arizona?
Well, not personally, no. I've seen videos and got some information that was sent to me by the students that are now working there. But other than that, that's about all I know about it. I think that originally the program went bankrupt,
right?
Because they ran out of funding. But what we tried to do in Japan was similar to that. We built our own hydroponics building, and we built a hot oil generator to keep it warm during the wintertime, because the snow there gets pretty deep sometimes. And we were having success there for a while until things started changing. Some of the board members and all decided they didn't want to put money in, enough money into the program. So right now, in the wintertime, they've been shutting it down because the hot oil generator is not working properly, and we can't keep it warm enough.
So it sounds to me you ran across a limitation here in technology then, primarily in heating the facility. Yeah,
well, we've solved the problem, but we have a company in Japan that's putting together a Stirling generator for us.
Oh, really?
And, yes, and it's been over a year now, and they've been having, problems with some of the parts and stuff. But when it's finished, this generator will be able to produce about over 50,000 watts with just the normal storage of hot oil that we can store and heat even in the snow with our collectors.
Hmm. Now, what about water? One source of water, to pump it out of the ground. The other one is to perhaps collect it out of the air, such as an air well. How do you, what is your source of water for the facility?
Well, right now we've been here in the Philippines. Our area is out in Antipolo, it's called. We have plenty of water out there, but the river water is kind of it's not drinkable. So we have a filtration system that we're using there. In Japan, the water coming out of the ground is actually quite good because it's in the mountains. So we don't have any problems there. But I read an interesting article about the guy that invented the Segway. He's got an excellent purification device that he invented. And I think this is the way we're going to go. We're going to look into it.
What is his technology?
Well, I don't have a lot of information on it yet. I'll, like I say, I can send it to you as soon as I get it. But what he's doing, he's invented a device that uses anything you can burn in like a small oven, and it produces enough power to actually purify water. And they claim that they can take the muddiest, dirtiest water and purify it so it's drinkable. At the same time, and also have enough power left over to run some lights and a few things like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now what about electricity? Now, for the most part, we're stuck with the grid. We get our power from the grid. What areas of technology are you looking at to collect or to generate electricity?
Well, we believe by cutting down on your consumption, say in the average home, you waste most of your electricity for refrigeration, air conditioning, things like this, poor lighting. So by switching over to LED lighting in the rooms, change your refrigeration system. The average side-by-side refrigerator, say, or even a large top freezer or bottom freezer, the compressor runs somewhere in about 47 minutes out of every hour. And all the time it's running, it's consuming power, a large amount of power. But if you take say an old chest freezer, okay, the older type chest freezer, it hardly runs at all. Even if you open and close the door 10, 15 times an hour, it still won't run more than 12 minutes out of the hour. And that's because when you lift the door, the heat, the room temperature actually keeps the cold down, because the cold goes down, the heat goes up.
Mm-hmm.
So people are going to have to give up a few conveniences, like being able to open your refrigerator and reach in, for something. Because every time you open that door, all the coal goes down on the floor. And you have to recoup that coal to get your food cold again, okay? Mm-hmm. But if you take an old chest freezer and put a different thermostat in it and use it as a refrigerator, set it for 40 degrees, you can cut your electric bill enormously just by doing that, because you don't lose that cold. So this is another thing that we're working on now. In fact, we already have a sheet that we're sending out to a few people, how to convert a chest freezer over to a refrigerator. See, that'll help. Now, at the same time, you can go to the junkyard and get yourself about 2 or 3 of these big truck batteries. Take them to if you can't do it yourself, you can take them to one of these battery rebuild places, and they'll dump the acid out. They'll clean and check the plates and everything, and they'll have those things back working almost perfect again. Put 3 or 4 of those in your garage. At nighttime, charge them up while the electricity is cheaper, and then in the daytime, run, and even in the evenings, run all your lighting, use an inverter for your chest refrigerator and everything, and you can get by without hardly turning your meter at all. You would be surprised. And if you put maybe a solar panel up and a small home-built wind generator, you won't even have to use your grid at all.
Mm-hmm. What size inverter would you recommend?
Well, the thing about inverters, they're the cheaper ones are terribly inefficient. But for a small chest freezer with, say, a 1/4 horsepower compressor in it, you would need a fairly good-sized inverter for that. I can't think offhand the name of the company that makes those. I have it in my files. They run about $500, I think, something like that, for an inverter that will run a compressor. It has a surge controller on it, which is nice because when your compressor starts, it pulls a lot more amperage than after it starts running. So you have to take that into consideration. And you don't want a great big chest freezer. You want something very small with no bigger than a 1/4 horsepower compressor. In fact, some of the older ones had way too big a compressor for them. You can get some of the newer ones made in the 80s and 90s that only have 1/8 horsepower compressor. And that way it would be easy to run it off of a converter. And at the same time, like I say, we're saving electricity.
Mm-hmm. Now, the listening audience out there can go to Ben's website. And could you give it out that address, Ben?
Yeah, in fact, it's www.freewebs.com. Let's see, Schwartz, just Schwartz, that's it. I think it is, yeah. I have to be sure. I haven't opened the site in so long. I've been trying to open it lately. I made some changes in it. I took a name out of there that I think I already told you about. And ever since then, every time I try to open it, I get a white background with yellow letters, and I have to highlight the letters in order to read it. So I really need to get somebody to help me make the correction in the site.
Well, at my end, it seems to be working fine.
You get the green background?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Noah's
okay.
Ark Research Foundation. And the listening audience can go to Ben's website here. The link is actually posted on the for today's show.
I've seen it posted
Achieve
there,
Radio website here, and I'm on the page here that lists some of your projects. And I noticed the one here now. I assume this is this greenhouse facility that you built in Japan.
Yes, that's our hydroponics project.
Mm-hmm. Now, what that was completed, right?
Well, yes, it's completed now, except for the heating system.
So it sounds like it gets pretty cold there in Japan.
Well, it does. The snow can get up to 4, sometimes 5 feet thick.
Wow.
Sometimes it gets pretty cold. We've gotten snowed in up there and couldn't get to the highway.
Really? Oh, now that can be an interesting task, because I know we get quite a bit of snow over here in Traverse City, which is where I'm currently at. Roy and I are going to be heading back to Arizona next week, the end of next week. And we're hoping we're going to make it out of here safely with all this snow. Last year, I broke down getting some. I had to buy some snow tires for one of our cars here, because we kept on getting stuck just in a little bit of snow here, and had to call out a tow truck to pull us out. And then I finally bought some snow tires, and it's no problem getting around here. But anyway, Ben, getting back to your projects here, now you have a facility in Japan and also in the Philippines.
Yeah,
what brought you out there?
Well, originally we went to Japan on a project there. We had some investors that wanted to put up a small electromagnetic generator to sell. And we got into some trouble there because I told them that they're never going to be able to market the device without Underwriters Laboratory or something. And sure enough, we got shut down, and we were not allowed to sell them there. So that project fell through, and our mountain project, we were able to keep that going for a while. But eventually we will be shutting down that whole project there, and we're going to be moving to Arizona. We've been hoping that you get the ranch going, so we got a home to go to.
Well, we were looking at this this facility over there in the Paulden area, and a few people on our board of directors here toured the facility. I looked at it back in April. Roya was with me, and we looked over this place, and it fulfills, I think, the vision, behind the this ranch project is what we nicknamed it, and it's this facility. It's apparently it's for sale. And it has several structures on it, and people can go to my website here. It's called Progressive Tech Center. That's one word, progressivetechcenter.org. And I have some pictures of this facility showing you where it's located. And again, we feel that this area would fulfill our requirements here for developing a research center. And it's located over there in Paulden, which is just a few miles north of Prescott, Arizona, and it's central. It's central Arizona here, and its elevation is probably about 5,000 feet, and it's desert area, and the weather there is just beautiful. I spent some time there in the winter last year, and it was very nice, actually. But we feel that make a great spot as a research center.
Well, I'll let you in on a little secret here. I've already seen it, and I downloaded the pictures, and I printed them, and I sent them to some people in Japan. Mm-hmm. And in fact, we are trying to get the funding to get that property so that yours and my dream can come true.
Mm-hmm. Now, according to Aurora, there's a very good possibility that we could have that facility donated. Okay. To our, we're setting up this Progressive Tech Center. It's a 501. It's a scientific 501c3, and at the moment, we're approved in Arizona. We have the articles of incorporation set up here in Arizona, and we're currently going through the federal approval, and we're dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's on our paperwork here. And we should have this work completed, I think, this Monday. Which means that, we're going to be sending all the paperwork for the IRS, so that hopefully we'll get approval on this center. And we think we will. And Aurora, as I mentioned before, Aurora mentioned that, she thinks that we can have this facility donated to the 501, which would be absolutely fantastic. I mean, I'd be really excited about that.
Well, that would be great, because then if I can get this Japanese group to put in the funding, like I think they just might do, then the funding, if we don't have to pay for the land, that funding can go to building buildings and for research and development. That'd be great if you could do that, Bill.
Mm-hmm. Now, we have a question here from our listening audience. The question is from David from Denver, and he has a question for you, James, that what does James think about converting to DC in a home? I use 12-volt LED for light and motorhome refrigeration and ran a 12-volt bus for small DC appliances. Works great and eliminates the inverter losses. What do you think about DC?
That's exactly what we're doing. In fact, in our brochure, we recommend that the LED lighting, as the TVs, radio, most of the house can be run off of DC. Because like I mentioned to you a while ago, inverters are very inefficient, the cheaper ones. The expensive ones that reach a efficiency of over 90% are quite expensive, and personally I think it's a waste of power. So except for maybe building your own refrigerator, like I say, out of a chest freezer, the other option we had also was a gas refrigerator, like the old gas refrigerators back in the 50s. They were quite efficient, and they run off of a small pilot light. This is what he's speaking of as far as a trailer refrigerator. And it doesn't need AC current, and I think that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. Well, let's get back to this facility here, and we were talking about this facility in Paulden, and you mentioned that you looked at some of the photos of this facility. What do you think about this Paulden facility?
I think it's beautiful myself. The weather is nice. I researched the area a little bit. I went on Google and researched it. I even brought up Google Earth and took a look at it from the air. I have a little problem with arthritis in my knees and my hands sometimes, so I love the idea of living in the desert, personally. I'm getting a little bit tired of the moisture here in the Philippines in the air and in Japan. So I think it is the perfect place to put the research facility myself there. I really do. And it's not that far from schools and hospital and things. It's still convenient. Well, not real convenient, but it's convenient enough to get by. And if we could, of course, when we set up a research center there at Noah's Ark, we're going to have a small medical facility there for emergency.
Yes.
So if it's anything short of a major operation, we'd be able to handle it.
Now that would be very interesting. Anything in regards to dental care? Any thoughts about that?
Well, we don't have anybody in the organization right now in that profession, but that would be one of the things that we would look into, of course, because that's very important. Especially, I've been going through all kinds of dental problems. I got these titanium studs in my all the way down in the bone, in the jawbone. It has to be removed and everything. They've been giving me trouble and all. So we're definitely going to be looking into that aspect.
Now, one of the things that we're going to be pursuing with this 501c3, probably starting in the first quarter of January here, is to start looking at some fundraising activities. And with our group here, what we would like to do, Ben, is to add you on as a director in our organization here. And what we're putting together, I know Sandy Jones is experienced with grant writing. And also pursuing some of these fundraising activities, and that's what we're going to start looking into in the January time frame here. Okay, raising money for the tech center, and Aurora has some ideas too. One is something called a Global Green Aid project. She has some ideas here about putting together some musicians, maybe some rock groups, and put together a concert here that will benefit the tech center. That's one of her ideas here, and we want to engage the public here about helping out with this tech center. So that's what we're planning on doing in 2009.
Sounds interesting, Bill. I think that's a great idea. Of course, I'm not much, I don't know much about grants or anything like that. We've always been pretty well self-sustaining over the years, except for what little money comes in from donations and all from the Japanese groups and stuff. But I I do know a very wealthy Japanese organization that's very, very interested in my research and my technology, and we are hoping that we're going to be able to get them to donate enough to help you with the ranch.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. We should probably talk more about this as time goes on here. Maybe hook up next week here. Well, okay, Ben. We just have a few minutes left on the show here. Are there some subjects you would like to talk about to the audience here?
Well, not really. Of course, here it's after 2:00 in the morning, and I'm not. All the lights in the belfry are not on here, so I'm running on 3 cylinders instead of 4. And I just had a new son, by the way. Was born the 8th. So we're kind of getting used to the idea of having another kid, and at my age, that's something to think about several times.
Mm-hmm.
But I will be sending you some information that you can read up on, and then maybe I can call in or comment on next week. And we have a lot of very good projects, and see, we believe that 99% of the people are not going to be able to just have their own community or move to a community, especially with the way things are now. So we're working on ideas to make the average home more efficient as far as electricity, water, and things like that. And if we can do this, and we can allow people to save, and eventually it'll catch on, and maybe some of these people will be the ones that will be interested in starting communities.
Mm-hmm. Well, that pretty well wraps up another show here on the Progressive Tech Hour. I'd like to thank Ben Schwartz coming on the air here. Ben, your website again is Noah's Ark Research Foundation, and it's on freewebs.com.
Our website is www.freewebs.com, NARF Schwartz. But we have a very interesting Yahoo group, which is Noah's Ark Research, Energy Research.
Okay. Thank you, Ben.
Yahoo, rather. Okay, Bill. I'm falling asleep here, so, buddy, I'm sorry.
Okay. Thanks, Ben.
Okay. So we decided to do a ground radar scan. And when we did, we came up with some very unusual findings. In fact, I don't know whether you've seen it. I posted it in our file section at the Noah's Ark group, Noah's Ark Research Group. There was a lot of concrete debris at the bottom, which we assumed probably broke off from the top of the concrete structure. But we also found 4 interesting, distinct objects at the bottom, which we think is softer type material that was put in there. And it looks like there was some sort of like a copper ring or something, a tube, connecting them together. And we think it might have been some kind of a ground plane or something. And there's also evidence of tunnels leading out in 4 different directions. So that's about as far as we've gotten so far. We're still doing research on it.
Now, let me stop you right there. And, You're saying that they buried something there, or they dug into the ground, or what's going on there?
Well, yeah, from the surface, Tesla dug a hole down about 120-something feet, and at the bottom of that hole, he had, looks like he was building some sort of a ground plane or something to connect into
exotic technologies. Well, this includes such areas as free energy, gravity, anti-gravity control, the study of nature of time and time travel. We'll explore not only the technology, but also the how-to part of the technology. So let's have some fun today and explore the world of exotic technologies. Folks, my special guest today is founder of the Noah's Ark Research Foundation, James Schwartz. Ben's organization was formed September 27, 1976 in the Philippines for the sole purpose of doing research in alternative energy, new battery technology, water purification, electric vehicles. The organization also is to provide equipment, work area, and funding for scientists and researchers that need a safe haven from mainstream research organizations. Ben, welcome to the show.
Well, it's nice to be on the show, Bill.
Ben, tell the listening audience about Noah's Ark Research Foundation.
Well, originally Noah's Ark was a medical research organization. We had a few doctors on the show, and we were doing rife research in cancer and arthritis, things like that. But very difficult to get funding and stuff. And eventually we got off into alternative energy and new batteries, electric cars, things like this. And we got quite a response from our research team in Japan and India. So it was born on a screen. But we're pretty sure that he was also connecting into these three rock layers as you go down.
Now, I've been doing a little bit of research into Tesla's work, and I have a web page dedicated to Tesla's wireless power transmission system. And I was just wondering if you looked into Tesla's flat coils, his flat coil design,
Well, actually, I have. We were interested in his coil design because we believe that this was a very important bit of information in the construction of his tower. As you know, the tower had been disassembled by the government. They went in there and they took it all apart. So we have no way of knowing what Tesla was planning in the top of the tower, but we do know he had coils up there, a lot of copper coils. We have gone a little kind of off the beaten path where most researchers try to get information about Tesla's coils and things like this. What we have done is research the various companies and stuff that Tesla ordered supplies from. And we were able to locate a company that, of course, long since out of business. And since then, we have been concentrating on new energy technology, new lighting, things on this order, and a few exotic things, of course, that we don't usually talk about, like our electromagnetic flux energy research program. We also do some research in Tesla research. We're got a group that's helping us right now. We're hoping to set up a small Tesla museum, duplicate some of Tesla's work. We have done a ground radar scan at Tesla's tower and found out some interesting information, which we have posted on our group.
Okay. Now, what sort of work have you done with Tesla's technology? You know, this is an area that I'm fascinated with.
Well, me too, Bill. Well, we were always curious about why Tesla had his tower set up the way he did. The depth approximately 122 feet, somewhere in there. But over the years, because it was owned by a photographic organization, they've been dumping chemicals and everything in there, which makes it kind of impossible to go down and inspect anything to the earth. And at the same time, just a little bit below that, there's signs of 4 tunnels down there leading off in different directions. Now, what these were, we have no idea whatsoever. They're filled with sediment and chemicals and all from the company that owned the property.
Huh, that's very interesting. Now, I also heard that the kind of the geology out there, the type of rock that Tesla built the structure on is somewhat unique. Did you run across anything like that at all?
Well, we did find the substructure of the rock there kind of unique. On the radar scan, it showed 3 distinct layers of rock formation as you go down, which in itself is not unusual, but each layer of those rocks, there's some sort of metallic reading that goes in, like if you were digging a tunnel down and you went through a rock layer and you took a piece of iron rod or something and a hammer and you drove it into that rock formation on the sides. This is what we found. But because it was made of iron, of course it was quite rusty, and it was very difficult to see on the scan